Am I here too, man?
All right, Israel, as usual. You know, we come out week in, week out, try and wake up our people and to be a bit more specific, the elect of our people. But before we start, we're going to give all glory, honor and praises
to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Wahab, Rakam, Kadash.
Yeah, double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel who rule and teach well.
That's right.
To the Akims on the highways and byways, those pushing videos in truth and sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. You right, sis?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, alright. So, one thing that people normally ask is like, who wrote the Bible? And the brother's gonna go through and break it down nicely for us through the Spirit. But before he does, I just want to read one precept before we continue. This is Psalms 68. I got it. Psalm 68 and 11. And really and truly,
I know you would have.
those who can receive it will receive it. Those who can't won't. But we're still going to bring it out anyway. So Psalm 68 and 11 says, the Lord gave the word. Yeah. So everything that we read in the scriptures came from the Most High. It says the Lord gave the word. Great was the company of those that published it. And who was those that published it? The prophets through the scribes. Yeah. So go through, my brother.
Right. So as my Abadiah rightly said, there's a question that's always, not always, but it's usually thrown out to the brothers, the Akim, that are on the highways and byways and chief places of concourse, pushing the word. And it's thrown out as a means of a defense or a means of diverting the word away from the scriptures or away from the breakdowns that are coming out. So the question is, it's actually more than one, right, question. But usually the question is, that's often asked, is who wrote the word? Who wrote the Bible? King James wrote the Bible. King James was an Edomite, right?
That's what they always say.
Right, this is what they always say, right? Or a man wrote the book. So a variation of that question is usually the question that's asked to undermine the word that's been brought out. So you could be talking to a brother for an hour, bringing out the word, answering his questions, bringing out the precepts, and then a scoffer will come, listen for 5 minutes, ask that question, and that would throw a seed of doubt in the person that was listening to the word. So on that point, could somebody, yeah, Mark 4:14. Yeah, exactly.
All right, okay. Mark 4, chapter 14 says, the sower soweth the word,
That's right.
and these are they by the wayside where the word is sown.
That's
But
right.
when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away that was sown in their hearts.
And one of the devices that he uses is that question. It's a very divisive question. Right. So on that note, I'm going to attempt to answer that question, right, which is, who wrote the Bible? Right, so can I get John 1, 1-3?
John chapter 1 verse 1.
What's this guy today?
Yeah.
Job 1 and 1 says, in the beginning was the word was with God, I read it as is, and the word was God.
Yeah, 1-3.
It says, in the beginning was the word was with the Most High, and the word was power.
Right,
Yeah.
so that word we're referring to is the law, statutes, and commandments in the Haftarah or in the Bible. Go ahead.
It says, the same was in the beginning with the Most High. And that word is also given with Yahushai.
Well, he is.
It says, the same was in the beginning with the Most High. All things were made by him. That's how you know it's dealing with Yahushai. And without him was not anything made that was made.
So therefore, in a nutshell, one could even answer and say, well, Yahushai wrote the book. But we're going to continue to prove the point. Yeah, exactly. Of course. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Right? Could somebody read Hebrews 10 and 7 and Psalms 40 and 7? Right.
This is the book of Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 7.
New
And it
Testament.
reads, Then said I, Lo, I come in the volume of the book.
Right, so this is Yahweh Shai validating what I read before, that he is the word. He comes in the volume of the book. Go ahead.
It is written of me to do thy will, O power.
Right, and he's always going to do the will of Yahweh. Right.
It's the book of...
Hold on, I've got a precept just on what you just said. This is John 5 and 30. I can of mine own self do nothing.
That's right.
As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which has sent me.
So that's validating what I said before. Out of the words of two or more witnesses, every word is established. Go ahead.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 40 and verse 7, and it reads, Then said I, Lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me. Verse 8, I delight to do thy will, O my power. Yea, thy law is within my heart.
So basically, you just precepted what Ak said, and you precepted what Ak said. So that was beautiful, right? So it's establishing that Yahweh Shai came in the volume of the book. It's also establishing that Yahweh Shai is an emissary. He is a worker, a powerful worker of Yahweh, meaning that he exemplifies Yahweh's will, Yahweh's righteousness, Yahweh's grace, and his redemptive property. Right, so can I get Exodus? Oh, let me do this one. Because there's a reason for that. I got kind of marked into it. Right, so this is the introduction of Exodus, right? And it states, Exodus is the record of Israel's birth as a nation within the protective womb of Egypt, right? So the reason why I'm saying that is I'm establishing who wrote the book and who the book was for, right?
In Deuteronomy 1 and 1, that you know who the book is for.
Right, so can I get Exodus chapter 17, verses 13 to 14?
It's the book of Exodus chapter 17 verse 13, and it reads, And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword, and the Most High said unto Moses, Write this for a memorial in the book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua.
Right, that's basically it. So the Most High, the creator of everything, told Moses to write that book. Go on. Was that 13 or 14? Yeah, finish.
And the Most High said unto Moses, Write these for a memorial in the book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven.
Right. So that's kind of detracted from the point, but it's still valid. Yeah. You have a piece of that?
This is Jeremiah 36 and 1. It says, And it came to pass in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, the king of Judah, that this word came unto Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Take thee a roll of a book, and write therein.
Yeah, I've got it, but I've got it in order. So the prophet's coming down. So, no, finish it on. Yeah.
Says verse 2, Take thee a roll of a book, and write therein all the words that I have spoken unto thee against Israel, and against Judah, and against all the nations from the day I spake unto thee, from the days of Josiah even unto this day. Verse 4, Then Jeremiah called Baruch the son of Neriah, and Baruch wrote from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of Yahweh, which he had spoken unto him upon a roll of a book. Verse 17. So this is after he then went and told them what was said.
Could you just leave it there? Because where is, I've got the precept, but I've got it in the order of the prophets. Yeah. So it's beautiful still because it's the word. So can I get Exodus Did you not bring out 24? Yeah, bring out.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 24, verse 4. And Moses wrote all the words of the Most High, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Could you read that again?
This is Exodus chapter 24 and 4. And Moses wrote all the words of the Most High, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Jump to 7.
And he took the book of the covenant,
That's right.
and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord, the Most High, has said we will do,
Right.
and be obedient.
Right, that's it. So basically, Moses wrote the words, and he wrote it in a scroll, and then he read it out, and the covenant was made. Can I get the next precept? Exodus 32, 15 to 16. Yeah,
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 32 and verse 15, and it reads, And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other side were they written. Verse 16. And the tables were the work of the Most High, and the writings was the writings of the Most High, graven upon the tables.
Right, so basically, Yahweh the Most High, Al-Shadia, wrote those words. Right? So we're establishing who wrote the book. Right? So Yahweh also, not only was he the inspiration of writing the book, but he physically wrote that bit of the book. Alright, so can we jump to verse 32 now? 32.
Oh, verse.
Yeah.
Oh, so lucky. Exodus chapter 32 and verse 32, and it reads, Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of the book which thou hast written. Verse 33.
No, 32. Just
33.
right, so read it again, please.
Verse 32 of Exodus 32. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sins, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of the book which thou hast written.
That's the point. So, who wrote it? Who's the thou? Who's the thou that's mentioned it?
The Most High.
The Most High written. So we're establishing who wrote the book. Right, so can somebody get me Exodus 34, 26?
This is the book of Exodus.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is book Exodus 34, verse 27.
27, yeah.
And Yahweh said unto Moses,
Stop, say that again.
and Yahweh said unto Moses,
Stop, say that again.
And Yahweh said unto Moses,
Go ahead.
Write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel.
Right, so who wrote those words? Or who spoke to Moses to write those words? Yahweh. Right, so we're establishing who wrote the Bible. Right, so this is can I get the precept Deuteronomy 4 and 2?
Yeah. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 2. It says, Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of Yahweh your power which I command you.
Right, so who made that announcement? The Most High made that announcement, and what did he instruct all of the saints, or all of Yasha Allah, or all of the Hebrew Israelites, or all of the prophets, or all of the anointed people that wrote the book, that they cannot add or diminish from his words. So we're establishing who wrote the Bible now. Can I get Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, I think it's 4 to 9 or 4 there.
Deuteronomy 6 verse 4. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh thy power is one Yahweh.
Stop. Can I just say that Paleo Hebrew? Shema Yasha'ala, Yahweh, Alahayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Go ahead.
It says, verse 5, and thou shalt love Yahweh thy power with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. Verse 9. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house, and on thy gates.
Right. Thou shalt write them upon the posts. Thou shalt write them and have them as frontlets by your eyes or on your hand. Go ahead.
Says, and it shall be when Yahweh thy power shall have brought thee into the land which he sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities which thou buildest not, and houses full of all good things which thou fillest not, and wells digged which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees which thou plantest not, when thou shalt have eaten and be full.
Yeah, it should have been tonight. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 9 and verse 10.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 9 and verse 10.
Bring it out.
And it reads, and Yahweh delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of the Most High.
Stop. Could you repeat that out?
Deuteronomy chapter 9 and verse 10, and it reads, and Yahweh delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of the Most High.
One more time, man.
Like some kind of show.
One more time, man.
Deuteronomy chapter 9 and verse 10.
Bring it out.
And Yahweh delivered unto me 2 tables of stone with the written Salaki with the finger of the Most High.
That's right.
The Most High Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Son, Yahweh himself wrote it with his finger, right? So we're establishing who wrote the Bible, because that's the question I was posed. Who wrote the Bible, right? Deuteronomy. What was the last one you read? 9 and 10. 18.
You want to give people...
That's what he was going to do.
No, yeah.
I was going to do 27 minutes.
Good, yeah. I want to hear you. I want to hear you. I'm hearing you. I want to hear my brother too. Alright, sir. Okay. Alright. So Salakia Israel, we had a little weather interference, but nothing's going to stop the word from coming out.
Sure.
Yeah? The spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So right now, we're on Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 18 and 19. Something we have?
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 18. And it reads, I will raise them up a prophet from among the brethren like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
Right, so read that again. I love that.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 18.
Bring it out.
Goes back to what I read in John 5 and 31.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But what our people have to realise, like the brother's bringing out, people bring that out to try and discredit the scriptures, say, oh, man wrote it. But as the brother probably mentioned it again anyway, there's no book that's ever written that man hasn't wrote. The difference with the scriptures is who inspired it. Some man never sit down one day and said, well, what am I going to write today? It was holy men, moved by the Spirit that put these words together. And like the brother brought out of the scriptures, when it comes to the tablets, the table of stone, as we refer to them, the 10 Commandments, those the Most High specifically wrote himself, and he did that twice. That's right. You know what I'm saying? He did it twice. Outside of that now, the Most High gave the word, and brothers published what was written, man. Exactly what the case. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is what I want you to do. So So I'm telling you what I want, and you're documenting it. That's what happened with the scriptures.
So this is what we're trying to establish with what would be known in academic circles as empirical evidence. Not hearsay, not what we think, not what we believe, what we can prove. Yeah? So I'm trying to establish and prove who wrote the Bible. You already know who wrote the Bible. We're trying to prove it. So
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 18.
Right.
And it reads, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee.
Just wanted to add, if I may, that prophet that's going to be raised up, like unto Moses, that's Yahushua.
Yeah, not Muhammad.
That's
That's right.
who that is referring to. This is the Most High telling Moses that a lawgiver is going to come from amongst your brethren, like unto you.
That's
what that is.
You know, from your brethren.
Yeah.
Who's your brethren? Hold on, while we're in. So we quickly jump to 15 and 12.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 15 and verse 12. And it reads, and if thy brother and Hebrew man, or an Hebrew woman,
That's all I want.
That's right.
So it's talking about one of your own people, man. Not talking about any Hebrew, it's talking about all of your people.
Yeah. And just to validate, when we read Hebrews, 10 and 7, it established that Yahushua comes in the volume of the book.
That's right.
So we don't need to nitpick and cherry pick. He the volume of the book, right? So, did you finish? Yeah, finish.
it's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 18, and it reads, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee.
Stop. Aki Abadiah just defined what the brethren means. So, to those that don't know, he defined it. Go ahead, stop.
I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
Right. So yeah, because bearing in mind what we're attempting to do today, which is different from usually when we speak in the spirit, we're sticking on a particular topic and trying to explain who wrote the Bible. Right. Can I get Deuteronomy 27 and 8? Oh, you haven't done 19? Oh, Salakia.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 19, and it reads, and it shall come to pass
That's a future prophecy.
that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name,
Let's say that again.
and it shall come to pass
It will happen.
that whosoever will not hearken,
Whosoever meaning Yashala, Hebrew Israelites, right?
shall not hearken unto my words,
My words, Yahweh's words, or Yahushua's words.
to my words which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him.
Right. So the point really was his words and Yashala, who the words were spoken to. Can I get Deuteronomy 27 and 8, please?
Quick precept, this is Amos, because at the end of the day, the Most High ain't going to speak it to anyone anyway.
No.
This is Amos 3 and 7. Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. This is Amos 20:11. And I raised up of your sons for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarite. Is it not even thus, O ye children of Israel? Showing you who the Most High is going to be speaking to anyway.
That's right.
You know?
Just to add to what the brother said, and the prophets only come from the children of Israel.
No.
There's no other nation he's made prophets apart from the children of Israel.
Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
Deuteronomy chapter 27 verse 8.
Bring it out.
And thou shalt write upon the stones all the words of the law very plainly.
Repeat that again.
And thou shalt write upon the stones all the words of this law very plainly.
That's self-evident, right?
Right, if you notice that, can you read that again, please, huh?
And thou shalt write upon your stones all the words of this law very plainly.
Now, why did he write on the stone the words of this law plainly? So you have no excuse to try to say, oh, that was a parable, I didn't understand that. So what is written that you shall do? So if he says, thou shalt not eat pork, he meant thou shalt not eat pork. It wasn't no subliminal message.
That's why we say salvation ain't technical.
Thank you.
The Bible has deep mysteries and stuff, but when it comes down to being saved, what does the scripture say? Better a man with small understanding and fear the Most High than one with much wisdom and transgressing the Lord of God. So, the shred is very plain, man. And it's only for those that can receive it anyway, really.
I was just going to say as well, it's actually this place which is technical.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
we've got all these different prophecies. We got brothers believing in air. We got brothers believing in this place is technical, man.
That's right.
And they keep on adding laws, because under Tony Blair's government, 1 million laws were added. 1 million laws.
But yet still our people complain to preach the will of God.
Which is made plainly on the tables of stone.
Don't add or take away.
Only minutes, that's right. Have you finished with this scripture?
Yeah, 8, yeah.
Alright. 29 and 29, Deuteronomy.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29, verse 29. The secret things belong unto the Most High, our power, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law.
That's it, yeah.
Baruch 4:4. O Israel, happy are we, for things that are pleasing to the Most High are made known unto us.
That's right. So the point being that, well, we're going to establish it at the end, but at the middle, not even the middle, at a quarter of establishing the point, we've already proven that we wrote the book, meaning Yasha Allah, or the anointed Yasha Allah, by inspiration of Yahweh Shai, and we've also established that Yahweh himself actually wrote bits of it. The Big Ten that everybody talks about, Yahweh wrote that himself.
That's right.
Right? Okay. Can somebody bring out Deuteronomy 31 and 9, please? 31 verse 9. Yeah.
Got it? Deuteronomy 31. Deuteronomy 31 and 9. And Moses wrote this law and delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Levi.
That's it. That's all really I wanted.
And
Moses wrote the law.
And where did he get it from? Quick one. Deuteronomy 5. Deuteronomy 5 and 31. Look at it, bro. Ye shall observe Deuteronomy 5 and 31. But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments and the statutes and the judgment which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land which I have given them to possess.
Right. So the point in the way that the precepts are listed, right, like I said earlier, it's going to be a different thing. This particular section, section, is going to be slightly different because I'm trying to do it in decency and in order, and I'm trying to list everything as it occurs to prove who wrote the book or the books. Because Bible actually means biblios, which means books, plural, which means scrolls. That's what it means, right? So we know that Moses wrote the first 5 books, so we're dealing with those books, or we're dealing with the scriptures that proves that he wrote those books. So can I get Deuteronomy 31 and 24, please?
Deuteronomy 31
and 24. Anybody?
Deuteronomy 31 verse 24.
Read it out.
And it reads, and it came to pass when Moses had made an end of writing.
That's it. Moses made an end of writing. So this is basically coming to the end of his life, and he made an end of writing the first 5 books, what we call Haftarah. Right. So now, can somebody bring out Joshua chapter 24, verse 25 and 26.
This is the book of Joshua, chapter 24 and verse 25. And it reads, so Joshua made a covenant with the people that day, and set them a statute and an ordinance.
This is also validated because a lot of people say that Moses made a covenant. No, there were covenants. So, yes, plural. So Joshua, whose name in the Hebrew is Yahushai, he made another covenant with the children of Israel that came out of the wilderness, because the others didn't come out of the wilderness except for Yahushai, Joshua, and Caleb. They're the only ones that came out of the wilderness, right? So he made a covenant again with them. Go ahead.
So Joshua made a covenant with the people that day and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem.
That's right. Or Shechem or Shechem. Yeah, go ahead.
And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of the Most High.
That's right. Joshua wrote the book. So Joshua wrote that particular book. All right, can I get 2 Samuel? I'm sorry if I'm speeding, but there's quite a lot of precepts to bring up. 2 Samuel 23 and verse 2.
This is the book of This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 23 and verse 2, and it reads, "The Spirit of Yahweh spake by me, and his word was in my tongue."
Can you repeat that, please?
2 Samuel, chapter 23 and verse 2. "The Spirit of Yahweh spake by me, and his word was in my tongue."
So therefore, the Spirit of Yahweh was speaking through these holy men, these Kadash men, these prophets, and his words were in their tongue, right?
Can I just add? Now, if you notice what it just said in 2 Samuel chapter 23 and verse 2, what I just read, that still links up with what the brother read here in Deuteronomy 18 and 18.
That's the point. That's the point. Can somebody bring out 2 Kings 22, verse 13, please?
Okay. 2 Kings chapter 22 verse 13. "Go ye inquire of Yahweh for me and for the people and for all Judah concerning the words of this book."
All right, one second. Could you just repeat it, please?
"Go ye inquire of Yahweh for me and for the people and for all Judah."
All Judah, meaning Yahweh, meaning the Jews, meaning in the present day, the two sticks combined, which would be the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. But at that time, it would have been the southern kingdom. Go ahead.
"Concerning the words of this book."
Jingle bells, Batman spells, Robin flew away.
Go ahead, Adam.
"For great is the wrath of Yahweh that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us."
Right. So the point, that's also illustrating not just who wrote the book, but the point of the book is as a reminder or something, what you would say, set in stone, so that we can look at it and remember and do them. The next precept, please. Is it 2 Kings? Or 1 Chronicles?
1 Chronicles, yeah, 19,
Yeah,
29,
1
29.
This is the book. This is
Yeah,
1
go ahead.
Chronicles chapter 29, verse 29. "Now the acts of David, the king, first and last."
Oh wait, yeah, say that again, man. Let's love to hear that.
1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 29.
You're testing it, man.
Now the acts of David,
The
the king.
acts of Dawada. Goodbye, Dawada. Come
David
on.
the king, first and last.
First and last.
Behold,
So we know that's Yahweh.
that's right. Behold, they are written in the book of Samuel, the seer, and in the book of Nathan, the prophet, and in the book of Gad, the seer.
Right, could you just repeat the books that is listed in here? Because we're talking about the book. We're talking about who wrote the book. Go ahead.
It says, behold, they are written in the book of Samuel,
Samuel wrote a book. Go on.
the seer, the book of Nathan,
Nathan
the prophet.
wrote a book. Go on. One of the books. Go on.
and the book of Gad.
God wrote a book. One of the books. Who wrote the book? We're going to answer who wrote the book. Can somebody bring out 2 Chronicles, chapter 26 and verse 11?
This is 2 Chronicles chapter 26 and verse 11.
That's right.
And it reads, "Moreover, Uriah had an host of fighting men that went out to war by bands, according to the number of their account, by the hand of Jael, the scribe, and is
that was basically it. So say it again, because basically what? Say it again.
Right. This is 2 Chronicles chapter 26 and verse 11. Moreover, Uriah had an host of fighting men.
An army of fighting men.
That went out to war by bands, according,
which would be troops, right?
According to the number of their account, by the hand of Jael.
Right, so an account is a written record or a verbal record. But in this case, it's written because it mentions a scribe. And what do scribes do? They write stuff. Go on.
The scribe
write stuff. Go on.
And how do you say that? Messiah, the ruler, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains.
Right, so yeah, the point was that Jael, the scribe, wrote accounts in 1 Chronicles, Second Chronicles. Can I get 2 Chronicles chapter 28 and verse 26? Baba Sharp.
Can I just add?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, if you notice, even throughout the scriptures, you'll find that all these men, when they made accounts, they all had scribes who wrote down things they said.
That's how the book, because we're establishing how the book was written, because they want to know who wrote the book. All right.
Second Chronicles 28 and 26.
Bring it out.
Now the rest of his acts and of all his ways, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel.
That's right.
Quite the things that we've done.
That's right.
For the scriptures are written in the scriptures.
That's right. So we're establishing who wrote the book. Can somebody bring out 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and verse 37? Sure.
This is the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and verse 37, and it reads, Therefore write all these things that thou hast seen in a book, and hide them.
Do it again. Bring it out again, please. Yeah.
Book of 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and verse 37, and it reads, Therefore write all these things that thou hast seen in a book.
Right, so the reason why he was instructed to do that is because Ezra was fasting and getting revelation, and then he was fasting again for 7 days further and getting further revelation. And at the end of that experience, he was ordered to write them in a book. So go ahead, say it again.
Therefore write all these things that thou hast seen in a book, and hide them.
Right. So that's basically what I wanted in that. Can I get Baruch 101, please?
Let me just quickly, this is verse 28. This 28. And teach them to the wise of the people, whose hearts thou knowest, they comprehend and keep these secrets. So not everything that's written in this book is actually for everybody to understand. You know, certain things you have to be taught. Because people think that you can just pick up the book. Everything that's written in it you can understand. It doesn't work like that.
Right, so Baba Musha, can somebody bring out Baruch chapter 1 verse 1?
This is the book of Baruch chapter 1 verse 1. And these are the words of the book, with Baruch and son Neriah, the son of Messiah, the son of Zedekiah, and the son of Adisiah, and the son of Shelkiah wrote in Babylon.
Yeah, so basically, that's this establishing that Baruch wrote the book. Right. So can I get Jeremiah? Good, this is where we're going now. Jeremiah 36:4, then 32. Because I'm doing everything step by step. I'm not jumping, I'm not skipping. Step by step. Because people want to know who wrote the book, which man or who is the man that wrote the book. They want to know. So we're going to answer.
Right. Jeremiah 36:4. I'll read 2 again.
No, let's read Jeremiah first.
Then Jeremiah called Baruch the son of Uriah, and Baruch wrote from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of Yahweh, which he had spoken unto him upon a roll of a book.
That's it. That's all you need to know. So Jeremiah wrote that book. Salakia. Baruch wrote the book, the words of Jeremiah. Right.
Which was, just to add, which was the words of the Most High.
Which was the words of the Most High. Let's jump to verse 32.
Then took Jeremiah 36:32. Then took Jeremiah another roll and gave it to Baruch the scribe, the son of Neriah, who wrote therein from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of the book which Jehoiakim, king of Judah, had burned in the fire, and they were added besides unto them many like words.
There you go. Could somebody please, sure, bring out 2 Maccabees 2 and 13?
This is 2 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 13. The same things also were reported in the writings and commentaries of Nehemiah, and how he found in it a library gathered together the acts of the kings and the prophets and of David and the epistles of the kings concerning the holy gifts.
Right, so that's really the point. So what happened is Nehemiah, which is the Greek Nehemiah, he founded a library. Which, could you repeat what books he put in that library?
And founded a
list of the books. Go on.
2 Maccabees 2 and 13.
Yeah.
The same things were also reported in the writings and commentaries of Nehemiah.
The writings and commentaries. He wrote it. Go on.
And how he founded a library.
He founded a library, which is what Bible means. It means books. Go on.
Gathered together the acts of the kings.
Together the acts. Just read it. Acts and Chronicles. Go on.
Of the kings and the prophets.
And
of David.
Dawuda, Kabad Dawuda, Malak Dawuda.
And the epistles of the kings.
The letters of the kings.
Concerning the holy gifts.
You want to know who wrote the Bible, right? Okay.
In like manner also, Judas gathered together all those things that were lost by reason of the war we had, they remained with us.
Okay. So what for that? Can I get 2 Maccabees 6, verse 8, and then 18?
Maccabees 6 and 8. Moreover, they went out and decreed to the neighboring cities of the heathen. Moreover, they went out and decreed to the neighboring cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy.
That's right. So now we're bringing out, now this is the Apocrypha, we're bringing out the name Ptolemy, and now please jump to 18 and stop when you get there.
Verse 18, 2 Maccabees 6 and 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh.
Right. Oh, you went past Eleazar, man. Just stay on Eleazar. Do it again and just stop at Eleazar.
2 Maccabees 6 and 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes.
Right. So Eleazar was a principal scribe. A principal scribe also means a chief scribe. And they were predominantly from the priesthood line. Yeah? So now I'm going into, because what I've done, I've listed out more or less, I mean I could go on forever, but more or less I've listed out who wrote the books of the Old Testament. I mean there's much more, but I could, you know, because there's Daniel too. But so now I'm going to go to the Septuagint, which is now I'm going to go to who wrote the Septuagint, which is listed in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 536. So I'm going to go there now to page 536. Marked. Right, so we're there. So this is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 536. 536, answering the question, who wrote the Bible? Now the reason why I got the brother to read the scripture that you read and stop at Ptolemy and Eleazar, because we're establishing that it's recorded that there was a king called Ptolemy, I think it was Ptolemy II, if my memory serves me right, and there was a chief priest or a chief scribe called Eleazar, right? So now, when you go into the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 536, it explains how the Septuagint, which is the first Greek written compilation of the Old Testament, the first one, right? This is where it's listed. This is how it's listed as being written, right? So this is the Septuagint. It states that Ptolemy, we mentioned Ptolemy II, called Philadelphus the king of Egypt, because he was a king of Egypt at the time. It has a date to 285 to 247 BC, before Yahushua, wished to have a translation of the Jewish law, which would be the Haftarah, for his famous library in Alexandria. We all know about the Alexandrian library. For his Salakia. At his request, at his summons, or at his request, the high priest Eleazar, which we read out, of Jerusalem, sent 72 men, 6 from each tribe, to Egypt with a scroll of the law. In 72 days, they translated one section each from the scroll, and afterwards decided on the wording together. So the version was called a Septuagint. Why? Because Septuagint or Septuagint is Latin for 70, right? So we're establishing who wrote the book. So this is 70 Hebrew Israelites here now, right? So there's a note here at the end. I want to read this because I think it's important. It seems most likely that the Septuagint, they have it in Roman numerals, but it's Septuagint, originated not by the desire of Ptolemy, because you know the Maccabean priest, even Eleazar, the account of Eleazar, he was not conforming to the wishes of Ptolemy. So this to me rings more true. So it says, it is most likely that the Septuagint originated not by the desire of Ptolemy II, although the project may have had his approval. That makes more sense to me. But out of the need for the Alexandrian Jews, which are the Hebrew Israelites who were residing in Alexandria, Egypt.
How did they end up speaking Greek?
Well, this is coming in now. Alexandria of the 3rd century BC was a large city with a great Jewish Yahawada population. These Yahawadayam were Greek speaking, having long since forgotten their own language. So that rings more true to me.
That goes back to 1 Maccabees chapter 1.
That's right.
Saying that we were forced to take on their customs.
Absolutely right. Right, so we've established who wrote the Old Testament books. We've established who wrote the first Greek translation, which is the Septuagint, all of which were the same people, by the same people. Now we're getting into who wrote the KJV. So one could say, well, who wrote any of the books? Well, the reason why I'm dealing with the KJV, because the KJV is a book that nearly all Hebrew Israelites put their stamp on and say, yeah, we use the KJV. So I'm dealing with the KJV. I'm not saying that the other books are not valid, because they more or less have the same thing, more or less. But we're dealing with the KJV. So now, I have to go to Zondervan again, page 86. The Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 86. So it's got a chapter on the various different Bibles and how they were created, right? authentic image of King James I. And could you just point to the whitewashing?
Oh yeah. You can see on the hand,
so that's actual
where
proof
whitewashing.
that they changed his image. So that's the image that proves that one, he's a J, and two, that it was whitewashed.
Can I just add as well?
Yeah.
Now, see how the brother just showed the whitewashing here, where it started. It's the same thing they done with the Mashiach, Yahushai. They whitewashed his image just like they whitewashed James, King James.
Alright, so getting back to the quotation, this is the Zonovan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 86. Right? So James I, the image that we just showed you is James I, which is now known as James VI, right, of England, who had been, he was James VI of Scotland, and then he now became James I of England, who had been king of, saying it here, who had been king of Scotland for 37 years as James VI. Several months after he ascended the throne of England, he authorized a new translation of the Bible to replace the bishop's Bible, which was the Bible they had before.
Just to add quickly on what because people get stuck up on that word version. When it says King James Version, a lot of people normally tend to believe, oh, this is what King James wrote. But when you go back to the etymology of that word and how it was used back then, version just means translation.
That's right. Yes, and also it's going to explain how it was wrote. But so he commissioned it. King James VI of England, the first of England, the sixth of Scotland. He commissioned a new translation, or a more accurate translation of the Bible. So how he did that was he got 47 of the best Hebrew and Greek scholars, and why that's needed is because it's written predominantly in Hebrew and Greek. So therefore you're going to need Hebrew scholars and Greek scholars. It's not rocket science, right? Of the day, who were divided into 6 groups, 3 for the Old Testament, 2 for the New Testament, and 1 for the Apocrypha. So that's actually validating that the Apocrypha was one of the books. Right?
If you get a 1611,
it's in there.
All of them are together.
Yeah. So this is an important bit now. 2 of the groups, now I want everybody that's listening to listen carefully here. 2 of the groups met at Oxford University, right? 2 at Cambridge University.
These are like top UK universities.
In the world, not UK, in the world.
Over here.
Yeah. And 2 at Westminster. So this is not no Mickey Mouse thing. This is academic, empirical, done to the highest standards of excellence, right? When a group had completed its task, its work was submitted to 12 men, which would be the 12 judges through the Spirit, 2 from each panel, from each side, right? Yeah. Final differences of opinion were settled at a general meeting, right? Which would be the church.
So what's that doing? That's actually showing you that even when they translated it, they took time to make sure that the translation weren't just wishy-washy and that you had done your job right, you had done, and we can agree that, you know? Yeah, that's right.
And now I've got another notation here. So I've explained how it was compiled. So in the note now it says the revisers, which are the people, the Hebrew and Greek scholars, who through the Spirit and being commissioned by King James, the first of England and the sixth of Scotland, the same person, right? The revisers, the people who actually did the job, who received no financial remuneration for their work. So the importance of that is, if somebody's paid to do a job, or if somebody's being given money to do something, this is where a bribery thing, a gift destroys the heart, somebody can talk in the air and say, well, change that, do that. No, it was a labor of love. It was done for free. So they weren't bribed. There was no money attached to this. Yeah? Yeah, go ahead.
Remember, we're saying that King James authorized it. What made him do that? This is one of the brothers' precepts. Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh, as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Most High even put in King James' spirit to get that done. You know what I'm saying?
Just before brother says what he's saying, I just want to add, and also the reason why he did it, because like where they were speaking English. They couldn't read Hebrew or Greek, who he wanted to be able to learn the Bible and to be able to read it for themselves. That's why it was translated from the Hebrew and the Greek into English.
This is Isaiah 28:11. For with stammering lips and another tongue
Just
will
what I'm
he
saying.
speak to this people. Because that brother said, like, some brothers today, they can understand the Hebrew good, they can understand the Greek good. I'm not one of those brothers. I've got little bits of words here and there, but I'm no Hebrew speaker. You know what I'm saying? So I need to learn this in English, and you know, those that can understand the Hebrew a bit better, so we can like enlighten us on where we're a bit short. You know what I'm saying?
If I could just quickly, because you said that those men did it freely, right? Without persons to without precept.
Yeah, bring out.
This is Matthew 10:8, and it reads, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils, freely have you received, freely give.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
that's okay.
I noticed that I left out some precepts out of order, so let me just slip them in before I do what I'm going to do. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say what we was just talking about the translation. Because you have to remember, back in them days, yeah, what happened is, if somebody wanted to know what was in the book, they had to go to somebody, go to a church, or go to a, you know, somebody like, because only like rich people could afford the Bible at that time. Now what James done, when he had it translated, he made it like being open to all that could afford. Yes, so now you didn't have to go to somebody and let them read it for you. You can own a copy and read it for yourself.
That's right.
Just quickly, so that's how amazing Yahweh Shem Yahshai is.
right.
That you just read, man. He reigneth the hearts of the kingdom. So he put it in the spirit of King James to do that.
And what did King James do? He put his seal on it. Hence, King James Version.
Yeah, so, now go ahead.
Also, there's a scripture that this gospel should be preached throughout all the world.
That's right.
When the end comes,
Right.
which means it can't stay in the Hebrew and the Greek.
Yeah, that's right. So we're scattered all over the place. That's right.
Yeah, so bringing us back to the topic, I made a big mistake in my haste. So what happened was I skipped over some precepts which are important to establish who wrote the book. Because I proved, the word proved who wrote the Old Testament. Now the word is going to prove who wrote the New Testament. So I jumped the gun when I went, I jumped the gun, so let me read it out now. So I'll do it. So this is the introduction of the Gospel of St. Matthew, right? Matthew is the Gospel written by a Jew to Jews about a Jew. Matthew is the writer.
Sorry, because listen, you can't get round this. You know, it says what it says.
It's not Bible.
It says what it says. And when we say it, people know. It's in the book.
Yeah. So let me read it again. This is the introduction. The Gospel according to Matthew. Matthew is...
You know when the Bible says, I think it's Psalms 16 and 8, where it says, they shall make their own tongues to fall upon us.
The Gospel according to Matthew. Matthew is the Gospel written by a Jew to Jews about a Jew.
That's right.
Matthew is the writer, right? So now we're going to go to Mark, the introduction of Mark, right? This is the Gospel.
This is how simple our people are. After everything that's going on, whosoever.
Yeah.
Whosoever.
The Gospel according to Mark.
Excuse me.
The author is best known.
I want to talk to you. Now, you are reading the Bible. And you are still just to read. Yeah? You see the woman is still on Yoruba from Nigeria. Yeah? You should take a woman that's still and give it to the ready. You read the Bible, you follow that law. Then commandment is there. And then you are a man. If you make it a woman, they make it stealing. It's spirit. And then if you make it there to put the feeling. Then I can know that you are reading the Bible. I do the Christian since 1950. I'm 75 now, or 80. Then you do that. In Nigeria, they kill them. It being extra 32 or something. They should kill the lesbian. They should not make life in the life. They should not. That's it. Then you should make it the lesbian bastard to donkey.
So this is proof. So the sister, the Aqua, Zapanwa, is proving that our brothers and sisters in the west coast of Africa are Hebrew Israelites, and she's bringing out the scriptures, and she's bringing out the judgments to the scriptures.
You should let the woman pastor, maybe your Ghana, Jamaica, and still and give it to get to sexy and get bloody money. No way. That's how they tell the children to disable and or paralyze. That's not good. Nobody, God said, well, you should follow what the Bible says.
That's right.
You should allow them.
But that's why we're out here, Mama, to teach our people, because the church ain't really teaching our people the truth of the Bible. And we come out to bring out the truth.
You should allow the woman to do that. They are stubborn and fucking sexy.
Sister, can I just could you allow us to continue and listen to us? And then when we finish, you could comment, because we're doing a specific...
I'm sorry to jump
No.
I have to go because I have to tell them what they are doing in Yoruba, Lagos. They are killing a lesbian.
That's right.
When I be a teenager, I saw a lesbian, they burn them in my country. Fire!
That's right. Okay.
And that was Leviticus 18 and 20.
That's right.
If I could say, man, our people are sick of this place, man.
That's right.
She's in her right mind.
She's in her right mind,
man.
Yeah. So, so this is the gospel according to Mark, because we're establishing who wrote the book, right? So now we're in the New Testament. The author is best known by his Latin name, Marcus. So they were given Greek and Latin names. But in Yahweh the Circle, I'm not even going to use that ish thing. In Yahweh the Circle, he was called by his Hebrew name, which is Yakanan, which means Yahweh's grace, right? But here we say John, but we know it's Yakanan, which means Yahweh's grace, right? So that's who wrote Mark.
That even shows as well that even throughout the ages, because it happened to Daniel,
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Our names being changed.
But that's not that bad, because in Daniel's time, they were given Assyrian names, which is similar to Hebrew anyway. But what they did now is they gave us the Edomite name, which have no anatomy exactly. So now we're in the Gospel according to Luke. Luke, a physician, writes with the compassion and warmth of a family doctor, and then he has in Greek kata lukan, which means according to Luke. So Luke wrote, who was a Hebrew Israelite, wrote the Gospel of Luke, right? Then when you go to John, which basically has the same name as Marcus, which is Yahweh's grace. So this is the gospel according to John, Yahweh Canaan, an extended eyewitness description of the upper room meal and discourse. The Hebrew name, Yahweh Canaan, Yahweh has been gracious, right? So, or in the Greek it's kata ayanen, which means according to John, right? So John wrote that. So then, most of the New Testament was written by Paul or Saul. Let me see if I've got that piece up for that just now. 2 Corinthians. 11 and 2.
book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 2, and it reads, "For I am jealous over you with godly jealousy, for I have espoused you."
11 and 22. So
This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 22.
now, bearing in mind, this was written by Paul, yeah? Paul the Apostle, right? Right. Go on.
Are they Hebrews? Question mark.
Go on.
So am I.
So am I.
So, the person that wrote this epistle is establishing who he is, right? Go on.
Are they Israelites?
So am I.
Israelites, go on.
So am I.
Go on, continue.
Are they the seed of Abraham?
So am I.
So am I.
That's right.
Right, so you know, I don't even have to go there. I don't really have to go there. So now I'm gonna go to James. Well, I'm gonna jump to James, right? There's a reason why I'm gonna go to James. Right. There we go. So the general epistle of James, which by the way is your icon, James integrates true faith and everyday practical experience by stressing that true faith must manifest itself in works of faith, right? The Hebrew name Yaakov, which I mentioned already. So James wrote the Epistle of James, right? And then we're going to jump to Jude.
Before you go to
There's a reason why I put it. Right, so Jude, the general epistle of Jude, so Jude wrote this epistle. The Greek title, Ayuda of Jude, because Jude is actually Yahweh, right? So could somebody go to Matthew 13 and 55? So there's a reason why I brought those two out. And then we're going to go to Matthew chapter 13 and verse 55. Yep.
Okay, this is the book of
We're establishing who wrote the book.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 55.
Bring it out.
And it reads, "Is not this the carpenter's son?"
Who's the carpenter's son? Who come in the volume of the book? Who is the word? Go on.
"Is not his mother called Mary?"
Who was the mother of Yahushua? Not Mary, what they call the Virgin Mary, right? Go on.
"And his brethren?"
Who's his brethren now? Now we're talking about his blood, flesh, brothers now. Come on.
"James."
Did I not just bring on James? Right? So who wrote James? The brother of Yahushua, blood brother. Go on.
"And Joseph."
That would be Yahushua.
"And Simeon." Simon's not, yeah, and Simon.
That would be Shemaiah 1. Go on.
"And Judas."
And Judas, which is Jude. So the epistle of Jude and the epistle of James were written by Yahushua's blood brothers who were Hebrews, right? So we're establishing that. So then we go to Revelation, and we all know who wrote Revelation, John the Revelator, right? So that was the bit that I skipped. So this is who wrote the entire book, right? So
this is 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 20. It says, "Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. For the prophecy came not in old time by the will of man."
that's right.
Some man never sit down and say, what am I going to
That's
write
right.
today?
That's right.
But holy men of the Most High spake,
Set apart men.
that's right, spake as they were moved by the Holy Spirit.
Right. So what I said in a nutshell explains who wrote the Bible. But what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to establish for people that are not in the truth or people that are in the truth but are posed with this question. I'm trying to give a blueprint out there, right? Scholarly blueprint, not in the spirit of. I'm not actually not. I am, but I'm not in the spirit right now. I'm in the academics right now. I'm
Still in the spirit.
yeah, that's what I said. But I'm in the academics, so I'm sticking to the question I was asked. Who wrote the Bible? I'm telling you who wrote the Bible.
That's why you're the Minister of Education.
Yeah, right.
Hebrews 1:1. The Most High, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets.
Right. So now, could you show the picture of King James again? So we already established that the King James Version was written by this brother here, right? Who was Hebrews, right? So now, could you show the picture of King James again? So we already established that the King James Version was written by this brother here, who was Hebrews, right? So called King James and show the hand
Authorized.
was authorized and translated by King James. And if you look at his hand, you'll see that they began the process of whitewashing. Now, put your finger and point at the whitewashed hand. They may not touch it.
So, see the normal color there, normal color. And when you come here, you can see where it's been whitewashed.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 3 and verse 48.
That's right. Bring it out.
And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Right. So now,
Whitewashing come about.
right. So now I'm going to use empirical evidence. So the reason. Right. So. Right. So now before we establish using the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, using the scriptures and the help of the Akim, we established who wrote the Old and the New Testament and the Apocrypha. Right. Now we're in the process of establishing who King James was, who authorized the translation that we use, because one of the words they use against us is it was written by a white man, or is an Edomite book, or an Edomite translator, right? We proved that the people that translated it were Hebrew and Greek scholars, which, through the Spirit, I'm going to say it's Greek-speaking Yashala and Yashala in the truth, which would be circumcision and the uncircumcision, right? So now we're getting into the bit where I'm proving now that a white man didn't authorize it. It was King James, who also is a Hebrew Israelite. So I showed you the image. Now a lot of people would say, oh, that's an image, anybody could have painted that. That's not true, right? So now I'm going to show you something now. Wait. All right, yeah, so they can see that.
Yeah. This is another good book to get, man. Shows you a lot of whitewashing that happened over here in the UK.
Well, I was going to show that. Anyway, right, so he showed the cover of the book, right? So basically, when you go to page 1, it said characters of the court of Great Britain. Because what happened was, this was written by a spy, right? And this spy was commissioned to give reports on the characters, meaning the nobles of the court of the kingdom, right? Right. So this is highlighted by either his son or his grandson. His name is Spring Mackey. And it said to the editor, you know secret services, too recent, meaning things that happen that are too close, are not to be exposed, right? And I have sent you what I am sure you must think very valuable, and chiefly I protest with a view to service. So that's Old English, but what it's saying is, what it's confirming is that Secret Service memos aren't given out readily. So when you make a freedom of information claim in America, it takes 25 years for something to be given to the public, and if it's still deemed, what's that word they use? When it's sensitive, they have a word for it. Well, when it's still deemed important for national security purposes, they will add another 25 years on it, right? Right. So this is confirming that. So this is page 1. Characters of the Court of Great Britain. His Royal Highness Prince George, listen to this, husband to Queen Anne and Lord High Admiral of England, right? Is brother to the King of Denmark and uncle to the present, meaning present King of Denmark, was chosen by King Charles II to be husband to his niece. So who is King Charles II? Does anybody know? King Charles, say it out please.
King James' son.
Or King James' grandson. Right. So now with the same picture I showed you, the same guy that commissioned the KJV, this is his grandson, right? So I'm just this is my comment about. Right? So let's see. Page right, page 36. I'm gonna have to read it because it's high. Yeah. Or you could do it, but just read out the highlight. So, page 26.
So this is page 36 of Memoirs of the Secret Service of John Mackie Esquire. It says Charles Linus, Duke of Richmond, the son to King Charles II.
The same King Charles II is the grandson of King James. Go on.
It gives a description. It says there.
No, just go straight to the highlight.
Yes. It says black complexion, much like King Charles, not 30 years old.
Right. So black complexion, much like King Charles, who would have been his father, not 30 years old. That's his age. So this is the information that's being brought out. Page 39, please.
Page 39.
39.
George Fitzroy, Duke of Northumberland, page 39. His son to King Charles II by the Duchess of Cleveland.
Right, so this would be the brother to the person we mentioned before, son to King Charles by the Duchess of Cleveland. So we had a different mom.
Says, he's a tall black man, like his father the king, about 40 years old.
So this is not only establishing that he's black, it's establishing that his father, King Charles, is black. And look, anyway, that's what it was. 39, can we go to 40? Page 40.
Page 40. Charles, Duke of St. Albans, is son to King Charles II by Mrs. Gwynn.
So this is another brother by another mother.
Says he is of a black complexion,
Describing his color.
not too tall as the Duke of Northumberland, yet very like King Charles.
So he's describing that his brother was taller, but he's very much like King Charles. Yeah.
Charles Fitzroy, Duke of Grafton,
Right.
is grandson to King Charles II.
So this would